Welcome back to Reclaiming Your Mind, a Phase 1 trauma course with Catherine Newton and relational healing. We are so glad that you are here today learning how to manage and heal your symptoms of childhood trauma. Please watch each video all the way through and do any of the suggested exercises. If any of these exercises activate you too much, just set them aside and then go back to them once you're less activated. Please remember, you can reach out to me with questions. And for those of you that are in the coaching program, you can bring those questions to your weekly coaching time. Thanks. The next page is on getting little, next few pages. And again, getting little is the word that I use for describing what it feels like when you have an episode of spontaneous age regression or emotional flashback. This occurs when a survivor feels suddenly threatened by a trigger or cue that resembles some aspect of their original trauma. Spontaneous age regression is one form of what treatment providers refer to as an emotional flashback. Flashbacks are dissociative processes and may take the form of pictures, sounds, smells, body sensations, feelings, or numbness. Many times there's no actual visual or auditory memory. When the body gets triggered by some aspect of the original trauma or traumas, it responds physiologically by releasing a variety of hormones and chemicals that lead to the feeling of getting little. Though the body reaction of getting little is part of our normal defense system, the timing's out of whack. The part of us that feels little does not realize the trauma is over and reacts as if it's still truly in danger. The individual forgets that they have an adult part available to them for help. The survivor's over or under reaction can take many different forms and looks confusing to anyone that is watching or interacting with the individual at the time, because they don't realize that they're interacting with child parts. Child parts. There's pictures of children. I don't know if you can see that. Child parts can be angry, hostile, rageful, vengeful, violent, passive-aggressive, sweet, dependent, fearful, depressed, sad, codependent, shut down, anxious, terrified, submissive, boundaryless, desperate, ashamed, happy, joyful, playful, silly, and excited. They really are the most precious parts of ourselves, but they've been in charge of protecting themselves and each other for so long that many have forgotten how to play and heal. These parts can be terrified of connection and intimacy in relationships because they have never felt safe. As a result, most child parts stay quite isolated, fearful, and lonely. When spontaneous age regression happens, the younger parts of the personality are left in charge of running the show. Little parts can be ego states or action systems in the psyche that feel very young. They can overreact and are very sensitive to rejection and abandonment. When a child has been traumatized repeatedly at a young age, they cannot get their security needs met adequately. They have no capacity to regulate themselves or their emotions due to their neglect and abuse. As a result of this deprivation, the child part is not able to grow and develop normally. As a result, these younger parts are frozen in time outside of consciousness, while the leftover part of the personality continues on with everyday life. These younger, less developed parts of the personality then continue to surface whenever they feel threatened. These periods of regression can last anywhere from 3 to 30 hours and are the most intense period of suffering for every survivor. Pete Walker, in his book entitled From Surviving to Thriving, calls this the abandonment melange. So we're going to stop there for today. I don't want these videos to be super long. We're going to just go back and summarize what we figured out so far. So we heard a quote from a survivor about her episode of spontaneous age regression or getting little or emotional flashback. We got a chance to see what it felt like for her. We got a chance to talk a little bit about getting little and why that occurs and what causes it. And then we got a chance to talk about child parts. Okay, so basically, in summary, people who are childhood trauma survivors oftentimes feel like they're going crazy. They're afraid to tell other people about what's happening to them because they can be functioning like an adult 1 minute and then literally get triggered, and sometimes not even know why they get triggered, and end up regressing into a space where they aren't acting like an adult anymore. And sometimes they can get triggered into a space where they get really angry and, become this angry adolescent. Or sometimes they get really scared and fearful of abandonment or rejection, and they get really little emotionally to where they begin to act more like a child. And so you can imagine what your life would be like if you're constantly regressing, because 1 minute you're walking around like the introduction that I wrote about in my own life, where I was walking around like a 40-year-old competent therapist and mother and professional, and the next minute I found myself feeling like I was about 3 years old. And thank goodness I could get out of that situation, but not before I regressed, and started sobbing like a 3-year-old. And I don't know about you, but I can tell when somebody's crying the tears of a child versus the tears of an adult. And the difference if you think about it. So, those kind of episodes can get in the way for us. They can get in the way for us professionally. They can get in the way for us personally and mostly in relationships. And, without relationships in life, we can't grow and we can't heal. And without relationships in life, there's really no true joy. So I know every survivor that I've worked with, and I know myself personally, that one of the things I used to always say to myself back in the day was, I am so good at what I do. I am such a great professional. I am so intelligent. I've come such a long way. But the only thing I can't figure out is this relationship thing. What is wrong with me? And it used to really make me feel like I just was a failure in that area, and I wasn't sure how it was going to get any better unless I tried harder. And trying harder didn't help, because I fell into the same patterns over and over again. So this is the beginning of a journey of recovery that hopefully will help you figure some of these things out intellectually, and then you can take it to your therapist or your support person, and they can help you work through it emotionally.